So here, what you're seeing on the screen right now essentially is me having divided my screen into two sections. On the left-hand side, this is the Loop inbox. This is something that you're likely already familiar with. This is where any messages or surveys that your guests send come into the inbox for you to view. And on the right-hand side, what I've done is I'm looking to mimic the guest experience. So I've, say, scanned a QR code in a cafeteria, and it's taken me to this particular web page where I can now take a survey, and this survey has been configured with our conditional logic in mind. The survey could be on the basis of a QR code. It could be on the basis of a kiosk that we support as well. So there's a multitude of different ways, obviously, that the guest could go and take the survey. But let's go ahead and see what the guest experience is going to look like as they fill out the survey. We have our landing page, which of course can be customized and colored on the basis of your brand standards. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and hit get started. And when I do, I'm going to be taken to the first page of the survey. You can tell that this is a survey that includes conditional logic and pagination because we have our progress bar right up here at the very top. Now, the first question that we've included here is a customer satisfaction question. In other words, asking for the customers to rate us on a scale of 1 to 5. So let's take an example where the guest had a very positive experience and they give us a score of 5 on our customer satisfaction. And if I scroll down here, this is where we can see the radio button question type that's been implemented that I had spoken about previously in the slide. We have an option for guests to choose which individual or which member of staff actually assisted them while they were at the cafeteria. So I can go ahead and choose the individual that assisted me. In this case, it was Mary. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And when I do, you'll notice that the progress bar has now moved to being 50% complete. In other words, I have completed half of the survey. And I've got a new question now, which is specifically pertaining to the fact that I gave us a 5 on the CSAT question on the previous page. And that question you can see is, what did you enjoy about your experience? So we have a couple of options here that guests can choose from. They have the ability to select multiple options, as you can see, on the basis of the checkboxes here. And they have the ability to provide us with a comment. One additional feature that we've also introduced as a result of the conditional logic is giving guests the ability to go back to a previously answered question and change their response should they feel the need to do so. So if I simply hit the back button, I'll be taken back to the first page, and I can now change my responses. If, for example, I chose the wrong individual, I can change my response to Todd, and I can hit next. And when I come back to the next page, my responses are still going to be recorded, so I don't have to click through them again. Now let's go ahead and type out a comment. And you'll notice as soon as I start typing, the message is going to come in that says this field requires at least 5 characters. So this is an example of where we implemented a minimum character limit for the comment box or the free text question type in this particular case. So I can go ahead and say service was, and at this point, I have now completed my survey. I can simply go ahead and hit submit. And from this point onwards, it is a fairly standard process. Individuals who wish to communicate with members of your team and request a follow-up have the ability to provide their contact details. Alternatively, they can simply hit no thanks, and their response will be recorded within Loop, but they will not initiate a conversation. So in this case, let's go ahead and yes, notify me and leave our contact details. Click on the notify me button. And from there, the guest is done. They get the message saying, thank you, your input matters. And we can see here a new conversation has come through in the inbox, which is the one that we just completed, the survey that we just completed. And if we navigate to that conversation, you'll be able to see what this guest indicated. So because we indicated a response of 5 on our initial customer satisfaction question, you'll notice that the question stating what could we improve doesn't have a response. And that's because that question, or that the page on which that question was present, was skipped. because of the fact that we provided a response of 5 on our customer satisfaction score. So what would have happened if I had provided a score of 1 or 2 or 3 on that customer satisfaction score in the survey? Let's take a look and see what that looks like. So we'll go back to the survey now, and I'll hit get started. And in this case, let's say I had a negative experience because the service was very slow. So I can go ahead and say I was unsatisfied, and I can say I can identify the individual who helped me. And now you'll notice when I hit next, the question that I received is different compared to the question that I received the previous time I submitted the survey. So when I had submitted the survey with a score of 5, the follow-up question that I received was, what did you enjoy about your experience? But because in this particular instance, I gave a score of 2 to that customer satisfaction question, I now have a different question here, which is, what could we improve for your next visit? So the conditional logic provides some contextual follow-ups, right? It just makes the experience a little bit more personalized for the individual based on the responses that they provide, rather than it simply being a static survey. So again, in this case, the guest has the option of choosing multiple options from the list that are provided there using the checkboxes, and has the option of leaving a comment, which will again have the same minimum character limit imposed. So I can say service was terrible. And once I'm done, I can hit submit. Again, I get the same workflow here where I have the ability to identify myself with my contact information. I can leave my phone number requesting a follow-up. And now that conversation is going to pop into the inbox here on the left-hand side. And obviously our natural language processing is still active here. So you can see, based on the comment that I had left as part of my survey, the previous conversation where I had a positive response has sort of a green smiley, whereas in this case, because I indicated that the service was terrible, we have a red smiley or a red frowny face. And if I navigate to that conversation, you'll notice that in this particular case, the positive question, which we had received when I had given it a score of 5, is now been skipped. And instead, we now see what the guest indicated in terms of the improvements for their next visit. And from here, the standard workflow in terms of messaging guests back and forth would continue. You would obviously have the ability to respond to guests from the inbox, and then the guest would receive the information within their chosen channel of communication, whether they provided us with their phone number or their email address. In this case, since I provided a text message or my phone number, if I would respond through the inbox here, the guest would receive a text message with the appropriate message that would have been typed up through your